Alrighty, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the quarantine series. For those of you tuning in live, thanks so much for being here. For those watching the video later, thank you for supporting. My name is Anna Maria. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a co-producer and the company manager of the quarantine series, as well as its sensitivity coordinator and director of community engagement. And today, we are joined by none other than the Justin Lucero, pronouns he, him, his. Justin is directing this Friday's show, A Picture of Two Boys by Nick Malikow. Find out when and how to watch at thequarantineseries.org/current-project. But back to our esteemed guest. Justin is the artistic director of the El Paso Opera. He is assistant professor of directing in the John Wells Directing Program at Carnegie Mellon University's School of Drama. He enjoyed a 2-year residency with the University of Houston as the inaugural Cynthia Woods Mitchell Fellow in Directing and Theater Studies, and is the recipient of such prestigious appointments as a Fair Directing Assistantship with Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and much, much more. He is amazing, and we are so grateful to have him. Justin, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first up, happy quarantine. It's been a really rollicking couple of months. How have you been as an artist navigating this quarantine? How did you start off right when everything started going bonkers? And how has your artistic journey evolved into what it is now?
That's an excellent question because it's tough for me to separate myself as an artist, but also a teacher and the head of an organization. So putting all those three things together, it's been pretty tough because, as you know, colleges and universities and the performing arts were pretty much the first groups to be shut down when the quarantine needs happened. And then we're probably going to be the last ones to be fully reopened. So it's been really tough for those of us that teach and do, performing arts organization, administration, et cetera. But as an artist, I've been through kind of a roller coaster. At first, when it seemed everyone was like jumping at the chance to figure out how to stream any of the shows that they had previously recorded, I had a really negative reaction to that. I felt like, it's not what theater was meant to be. I have a very it's not very unique, but I have a very distinct theater philosophy in that the live audience is pretty much the reason for theater, and that they are the reason in that there is a magic and a creation that happens that the audience needs to be a part of. And so when you do something where the audience isn't present, I just don't find that to be theater. But over the weeks, I've learned that there are things about streaming theater or doing things remotely that can still be theatrical and that can still use the audience in an interesting way. And so I've then changed my mind and I said, you know what, I'm going to try a few things. I've done a 24-hour play festival. I'm doing this. And then of course I've been trying to mentor some of my students and figure out what to do as an organization because we don't know when we're coming back to the way things used to be.
Oof, that's extremely real. It's so lovely that you've still stayed connected to your students and everything. That's wonderful. Also very exciting about the 24-hour Playfest. We will ask how to watch that, how to support that later. It's interesting. I've also similarly gone through a journey of, wow, this is a nightmare, and why are we pretending it's not, to really falling in love with all of these new avenues that have opened themselves up. So I guess that is a great segue into what brought you specifically to the quarantine series. I know at some point there was that switch of like, okay, let's try some of this streaming stuff. How did you find us? And what made you think, all right, this is where I'm gonna throw in my hat in the ring to see what happens?
Well, I of course knew of the quarantine series right off the bat because a few in your organization, the founders, are former students of mine. So Logan Butcher and was a direct student of mine in directing, and I worked with Madison as a stage manager when I was at the University of Houston, and I knew of you, but I'm so glad that now I'm working with you. So I knew I would throw my support. So I would, even though I was kind of anti-watching streaming anything for a little bit, I made sure that some of my friends knew about y'all, and then eventually started watching some of your work. But then, like you said, I just finally decided, you know what, I should offer my support because I really love what you all stand for, especially in terms of championing new writing and especially of writers whose voices are diverse. And so I thought, you know what, I want to be a part of this. And not only that, but I thought, you know, I need to start brushing up myself on these kinds of skills because my students and other people are going to expect that from us, not only as we continue through this little quarantine time, but in the future. I think that now there's going to be a sizable, noticeable shift in the use of these technologies in the theater industry. I mean, in the past, I had used Zoom, for example, for production meetings for those of my collaborators and creative team members who couldn't be in the same city at the same time. But I never thought of it as a rehearsal venue or a performance venue. And since you all have been doing it weekly, you know, gone through so many of them already, you guys have become very well versed in how to do it. And I thought, well, I can learn something from them. So I said, sure, count me in. And then y'all paired me with an amazing writer.
An amazing writer whose name is Nick Malikow. And once again, check out thequarantineseries.org/current-project to see his amazing work. And Justin, you say you came to learn from us, and within 2 sessions, we have already learned from you 1000%. We're already restructuring because of what we've learned from you. It's been such a wonderful experience. I'm so glad you took a chance on us. So with Zoom, I love that you said that this is going to stick around because, yeah, this quarantine really forced us to find new tools that most likely will not disappear once the pandemic eventually ends. Did you already have an idea of how you were going to utilize Zoom in the rehearsal room? What were your expectations for that? And now you're about halfway through the process. We've been through a 4-hour workshop, a 4-hour rehearsal. We have 1 rehearsal and a show left. How is your relationship with Zoom and Zoom directing, and how that contrasts to regular directing? How has that all evolved or grown?
I think I learned a lot from being a teacher on Zoom for the last half of this last semester, because again, those that have worked with me know that I don't really see a difference between directing and teaching, and so I knew that it really is about prioritizing. So as a director, you're constantly shifting priorities, and the biggest thing about this process is how truncated it is, and that you are going from project to project to try and do as many as possible. So with the very limited time with the playwright and the writers, really it was a question of how are we going to prioritize our goals and get through things. So yesterday's rehearsal, I did not get to the whole of the play, but that wasn't my priority. My priority was to get to know the performers, to give the playwright a chance to listen to this particular draft. And I take this seriously as a workshop and going into a stage reading. And it's not about a final product. It's about giving the most for the writer to develop this script. So I thought that the Zoom format was particularly helpful, actually, because it made sure that we all were listening to the words rather than trying to navigate words and staging and props and people that are watching us. It was just about us with our scripts and the playwright in the Zoom room, and we just looked for shape and beats and backstories and all the fun stuff that I usually do for over a full week or 2 table work in a normal process. So I took to it pretty well.
You did, and you were just cooking last night at rehearsal. Cooking. That's really, I love that you said that Zoom is really helpful, because I have been Well, one of our actors a few weeks ago said something quite lovely. She was like, honestly, being alone in the room and it just being me and my scene partner's face, everything falls away but the words, which I thought, like, without having an audience, that was really interesting. Do you think, because truly one of the most difficult things about getting people to watch a play reading is getting people to watch a play reading, is getting them in the room. Play readings and audiences, it's difficult pairing to put together. But with the quarantine series, we've been able to get like a few dozen people every week, which is really, really nice. But of course, nothing can really replace that face-to-face interaction, especially with scene partners. Going forward, do you think it would be wise as an industry to focus more on Zoom play readings, or do you think it's like honestly in-person stuff would be better? How big of a role do you think that Zoom will play in the future? I know we both said it's going to last a while.
It's gonna have a major impact, and I think that not only in workshop and play development, but in auditioning, I think that this is going to be something that it's actually becoming a tool for what we are all championing, which is accessibility. I think this gives us a chance to bring people together, and that normally wouldn't ever interact with each other. And I think for play development, it's actually excellent. It gives a chance for a playwright to work on something, rewrite things, come back, and it's not necessarily for the benefit of an audience to listen to the play reading. And so I think what's interesting about this is if we're able to communicate to people that, it's not tune in to listen to this great piece. It's tune in to be a part of and witness this step in a fuller process. And I know for me, it would be really exciting to be one of those couple of dozen of people that listen in to a play reading of something in progress. And then a couple months, maybe a year or two later, hear that there's a fully mounted production of that play that I was in a room to hear the first, reading of. I think that's really exciting. It's about seeing what happens in the future of this play, not necessarily at the end of this week we're going to have this thing and then done. No, it's really just one step in Nick's. I know this is going to have a life after this reading, so I'm excited about that.
That was so exquisitely put. Such like a lovely emphasis on collaboration. Maybe we're going to tweak our language a little bit for our weekly events, because I agree with that wholeheartedly. We are in the last couple of minutes of our interview slot, so I wanted to, as the host of online talk show Hot One says, I would like to roll out the red carpet for you, Justin Lucero. You are an incredible director doing an incredible teacher doing about 8 million things at once. How can we support you? How can we find out more about your work? Take it away.
I'm happy to use this time to champion a couple things, which is your series. I think that you all are doing fantastic work, and I'm so excited to see that you are expanding and that it's grown from people that you've been collaborators with to new collaborators. I'm really excited for y'all. So, I'm using this time to uplift you. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge that this is hashtag Blackout Tuesday. I'm technically a part of the music industry because I'm the artistic director of an opera company. And so, I committed to only use social media today to help amplify that movement. So even though this is on social media and this isn't technically about the movement and Black Lives Matter, I'm going to speak a little bit to that. And hopefully you all out there will also be in support of what's going on in our country and with the Black community. And thank you especially to my team on this play. We are a 4-person director, playwright, and 2-hand performers of all people of color, and we're really excited that we can be a little bit more toward the equality and diversity and inclusion of our industry.
Thank you so much for saying that. And Justin, you and I are on the same page so hard, it's one paper. Because I would also like to use this opportunity and this platform to say something very important. The Quarantine series stands in ferocious and unapologetic solidarity with the Black community. All of our producers have donated to the Houston Bail Fund for Houston protesters. We encourage non-Black allies all over the country, all over the world, to utilize the resources that are linked in our link tree. That's on all of our social media. It's in our YouTube channel, it's on our Facebook page, it's on our Instagram, it's on our website. We really, really encourage you all to stand in solidarity and take meaningful action in that regard. And that's about it for today. Justin, did you have any last words? You don't have to.
No.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining. Audiences, thank you so much for tuning in. We're very excited to see you this Friday, and stay safe out there. Thank you all.